Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Reckless Paradise podcast. I am your host, Dystro, and tonight's episode is a breakdown episode. Um, this one is going to be kind of a tough one, meaning because of the album itself, not because of the band or anything else behind it. It's just the album that I had listened to. Um, I really don't want to like sugarcoat it, but it felt like to me just like a filler. Like some of the songs that came out on this album, um, feel like filler songs just to put an album out there. And the album that I'm going to be talking about is Shinedown's new album called Eight. Um, I hate to be like that, and I love Shinedown to bits and pieces, but it's just like when you hear or you think of Shinedown, you think of like Sound of Madness, you think of Amaryllis, you think of like some of the other albums that have been synonymous with their sound since like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, and so on and so forth. Um, Not to say that this album is a bad album. There's been some positive reviews on it. I mean, even Metacritic give it a 75 to 77 out of 100. Which I mean, that's not a bad score, but it's not a good score. Um, the album itself had spawned like six singles on this, which I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Five of which I gave a good score. The other one, like, I didn't really feel myself kind of like being like, okay, I don't really think that's a single. Um, but this was also produced and mixed by the bassist Eric Bass. It feels like to me, this is just not a slight, this is not comparison. I mean, well, if comparison, but it feels like to me that, uh, some bands, they always do this, but some bands go out and try to experiment with certain things. I know that like right now they're on their Dance Kid Dance Part 2 World Tour, which kudos to them. Um, but like I said, when you think of Shinedown, you think of like Sound of Madness, Amaryllis, you think of some of their earlier stuff, like I had said. But there are 18 songs on this album. Yes, 18, 1, 8. It is over an hour long. Just to let you guys know, if you do happen to listen to this album. Um, Six singles that were from this album was 365, Dance Kid Dance, Killing Fields, Searchlight, Safe and Sound, and Young Again. Um, I agree with the first five. I don't really know about the Young Again one. But I guess we'll just have to get into it because, like, I mean, I gotta talk about it. So, the first song on the docket is called At the Bottom. Um, and I even said this to Marissa before I even started recording. I feel like if they had just done the five or six songs that we had known or had listened to, and also if they just made an EP out of it, I think it would have been fine. Because then it could have people, speculating and kind of being like, oh, okay, cool. Like, Shinedown's coming out with new music this year, so be, up for that. Uh, but for me, this beginning song at the bottom, it didn't really have that like punch that you would want to have at the beginning of your song or at the beginning of your album, I should say. Like again, it's like not going to be a slight or anything. I'm just telling you my honest opinion on this stuff because it's like I'd rather be honest and and not sugarcoat it for you guys. Um, so what it actually means is a dark confrontational track that uses sarcasm and imagery to explore the feeling of being misunderstood, blamed, and ultimately isolated. The surface, it reads as like a warning. So on the surface, it reads like a warning: kill the lights, cast the first stone. But beneath that, it conveys exhausted dignity and the quiet resignation of someone who has already lost the argument in someone else's mind. I mean, truth be told, no, that's everyone nowadays. Um, I gave this song an 8 out of 10. Because there's 18 songs to get through, so like you gotta kind of pick and choose your battles here. But like I said, like it just didn't give me that like I said, the punch that I was looking for. Because I'm a huge, hard rock person, heavy metal person. Like, if the song doesn't get me interested in like the first like 10, 15 seconds and stuff, like it just doesn't have me hooked. Um, and I've always been like that. Um, and it's like, and it's sad because I like keep comparing, like old school Shinedown to newer stuff. But I mean, that's why I kind of grew up on. So, on to song number two, Dance Kid Dance. I mean, when we heard this one, it was something new, it was something fresh. And I actually liked this song so much that I gave it automatically a 10, because it wasn't overplayed as much on the radio. I mean, it kind of got overplayed a little bit, but it wasn't to the point where I was like, oh my god, like, can we just get this off the channel? But this song is about overcoming social pressures, mental health struggles, and personal fears, encouraging youth to embrace life authentically. So like talking about how children in America are often prescribed antidepressants or Ritalin for conditions like ADD and ADHD, and it's kind of like an overvalence on the pharmaceutical solutions for mental health issues. Um, and I actually kind of like how they go into it. Like I said, 10 out of 10. Um, and it's actually like I've said before. I think it's cool that bands do not shy away from stuff like that, because we've always got to talk about this stuff, because it's like the song from Grandson, Brain Rot, talking about social media is kind of like making us feel less dumb. It's making us dumb, more dumb than less. Because like social media influencers are always telling you like, hey, you should buy this thing, you should buy that thing. Oh, like you want to lose weight, and all but it's like in reality, it's kind of like they're getting paid to tell you that because they could be like, oh well, yeah, like I can get you fit in 30 days, and all this. And it's like, but you gotta pay the money for them to tell you what to do instead of you doing it yourself. So yeah, 10 out of 10. On to song number three. It is Burning Down the Disco. Why does that sound like something I would hear on a TV show? They're burning down the disco. Like early 80s, late 90s stuff. So, Burning Down the Disco is a high energy anthem that uses the club metaphor to explore fame, risk, and breaking point of self doubt. Disco represents the glittering high stakes world of fortune, success, and the entertainment industry. Place where money, fame, and danger are all on the table, which is true. I gave this one an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a good song because it's like it kind of follows with I guess, the theme of the kid dance thing. Because it's like talking about, I guess, in a way, if you want to call it this, it's like kind of trying to get away from the pressures of social norms. But then it's like when you have the fame and the star power and all that stuff, it's like there's always that risk and reward at the back of your mind. You're like, okay, like, well, if I do this, like, but what will be the reward at the end of the shoot or the end of the day? Um, which is every Hollywood movie star. Um, but yeah, 8.5 out of 10. And now we're going on to song number four, 365. It's actually worded, the word 365 instead of like the number 365. Which I think that's kind of feels like kind of edgy, because it's always about like talking about like a lot can happen in a year. But the song Inspiration, oh boy, this is gonna be a tough one. So Eric, Eric, revealed that 365 was written in response to multiple personal losses over a two year period, including the deaths of his father, sister-in-law, and a mentor. Damn, that's crazy. The title refers to the 365 days in a year, emphasizing how much can happen in a single year and the unpredictability of life. The song reflects the emotional impact of these events and the struggle to cope with grief while celebrating the moments that we still have, which is true. I mean, I've always talked about people passing away in my own personal life. I've always talked about my friend Zane on this channel because he was so young and so full of life, and he left behind a wife and three kids and all that stuff. Or no, two kids and then a third one. Um, and like if he was still around to this day, like I think he would be doing amazing things for himself and his family. But now like I always think of him in the clouds, just shredding with Eddie Van Halen, just maybe just having a duet, with him. Um, and I always miss him every single day. I give this song a 10 out of 10, obviously. It's one of the other singles that I've grown to love over the last few years, and it has a good personal meaning, and also good, like, it's a good way to kind of say to yourself, like it says, in the song, like, oh, it can happen in a year, so cherish these moments while you can, and cherish the loved ones that you have. So on to song number five. It is called Young Again. Um, this one was said to be one of the singles of this one. I kind of agree with this. Um, so it says it's a nostalgic rock anthem that reflects on the fleeting nature of youth, the innocence of suburban childhood, and the quiet realization that those days are gone. Yep, I know how that feels. Because it's like I wake up sometimes and I'm like, oh, I feel old. And my parents, they always say, like, you're young, you have have your whole life ahead of you. And I'm like, yeah, but it's like it hurts every single day waking up. Um, so it says the core theme of it is the grief of growing up without it knowing, or without knowing it was happening. Jesus, I'm fucking speak today. It's not just about fond memories. It's about the specific ache of realizing that the exit door to childhood had no sign, and you only looked back once it was already shut. The emotion is understated, but powerful, using vivid, relatable imagery to make the loss feel personal. Yep, I know how that feels. Because like I've said to my coworkers before, like I graduated in 2017. My high school reunion is next year. And it's like, when you're 17, or when you're, in 2017 going into 2027, it's like, where did the time go? Um, because, like I was saying to my coworkers about, high school graduation and all stuff. It's like, when you're in that moment for high school graduation, it's like, you have your whole life ahead of you to do whatever you want to do, or, have good success for yourself in the future. But then leading up to that, it's like you gotta look back on your past self, like when you were younger, and it's like, it's like that old thing, like when one door closes, another one opens. And I feel like that specific phrase, saying the specific ache of realizing that the exit door to childhood had no sign. I mean, you only have your childhood once in your lifetime, and then it's like once you get out of that childhood, it's like going into teenage adolescence, and it's like you can never feel young again unless you can relive those memories in fandom and all stuff. Um, childhood memories. um, I give this one an 8.5 out of 10. I think this one feels like to me being more of a nostalgic sort of ordeal here. I mean, like I said, nostalgic rock anthem. But I mean, if you want to like relive the childhood memories and all stuff, I would say maybe listen to this while you're like looking through like a scrapbook or something. So on to song number 6. It is called Dizzy. I'm going to say this now. I feel like this is like where the album had a dropping off point for me. I mean, it kind of got picked up around song number 10 and all that stuff, but like, I don't know, man. It's just like, it just didn't feel, like I wanted it to be. So let's talk about song number 6, Dizzy. It explores the intoxicating, disorienting effects of love, portraying emotional vulnerability and the tension between risk and surrender. Okay. Well, and I probably had said this too for us as well. Like some of the songs on here feel like rock ballads or love ballads and stuff, and this one is one of them. Um, it's like I hate to compare it to that, but it's like when you listen to music, it's like when you like say for example, like if Slipknot came out with like a love ballad like album and all stuff, people are gonna be like, wait a minute, like this is not Slipknot. This has gotta be somebody portraying Slipknot. But then like when you hear Corey Taylor being like, oh yeah, like we did this, we were just experimenting on something, like people are gonna be like, wait, what? Like why were they experimenting something that was already good for them to do? And it's kind of like with Van Halen too. Like some people didn't like how they switched up their style back then, when they had Sammy Hagar on their side. Because a lot of people had grown to love David Lee Roth. But with some changes comes maybe more success, or maybe some failure. But it's like it's always good to try new things and go different avenues to see like what works, what sticks. If something doesn't stick, they don't go back to it. But then if something does stick, they go try to lean into it more. Like I think with their album Attention and Planet Zero, they were kind of like trying something new, because when they had done Amaryllis and the Cut the Cord song back in 2016, 2018, you know it's kind of like they just want to try to get out of that rock avenue and go into something different. But I mean, it's always good to do that, just to see what sticks. But some of these songs, like I said, they will probably be either rock ballads or love ballads or something. But like I said, this one was kind of one of them. Um, I gave it an 8 out of 10. Maybe if I had listened to this, if I had to listen to the album again, maybe I'll appreciate it more than the second time around. Um, but for now, it's just like it's not really hitting it for me. So we are on to song number 7, called "Imposter." Again, this one was kind of a little bit of a rocky road for me, a little bit. Um, so this is a raw, introspective track that explores the exhausting performance of maintaining a stable, happy front while secretly struggling with mental health and self-doubt. It's less about overt sadness and more about the quiet shame of feeling others while failing yourself. While failing yourself. That's all too real. That's all too real. It's kind of like imposter syndrome. I mean, I guess that's what they were going for. Um, I mean, that's everybody nowadays too. Like they always try to say, "Oh yeah, I'm fine, and I'm feeling okay," but then it's like you know deep down that they are not okay. And it's always good to have that person that's outside your family or you know, like a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Um, just kind of be like, "Hey, look, you know, I'm here if you need me." I mean, I've been through that song and dance before with Marissa, and I've always told her that you know, no matter what, I still love you. Um, and plus, like, you know, postpartum is kind of hitting her kind of hard, so you can bear with me on that. Um, I gave this song a 8.5 out of 10. Hearing the overall like theme of it, I would say it feels more. How should I put it? It feels more like I said, like a self awareness, I guess. Because it's like some of these songs will tell you about or kind of like paint you a picture of like you know somebody maybe going through like mental health struggles or you know trying to paint yourself in like I've always said about music like if you try to put yourself in that person's shoes like if you listen to the song and be like hey like you know I am going through that or it's like I know somebody going through that it kind of like helps you like help them you know in a way but yeah this one I think I might have to like listen to again and just appreciate the you know the art that is upon us you know so on to song number 8 it is called Machine Gun. I don't know what that would mean, but from what I can gather here, it is a layered song that blends personal longing with metaphors of war, conflict, and identity. It's not about glorifying violence, but about the grief and armor that come when love is lost or replaced by a destructive mindset. So, like, it's kind of like if you want to put it in layman's terms, it's kind of like how if somebody was like had a short fuse, or kind of being like they've been so mentally fucked up before, and you know they don't know how to kind of I guess in a way they don't really know how to cope with that mindset. It's kind of like when, excuse me, when like soldiers come back from war and they have PTSD. Um, some soldiers they will swear you up and down, be like, yeah, 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 I'm fine, I'm fine. But then it's like once you kind of get to know them more and more, and you know break those walls down a little bit, kind of just tell them like, hey, look, you know, I'm here for you to like, you know, just to talk and all stuff. Like it's okay, talk to me, and then you know you get the true feelings behind them being like, well, like, you know, it's not very much what it seems, you know, it's like I feel like sometimes like I just don't really want to be here sometimes. And that's sad because like, you know, they have a family, they have loved ones that they can go back to and love. But it's like sometimes war changes people. That's not a fact, that's a fact of life, you know, war changes people. Because you know, they gotta see crazy ass shit every single day. Um, but you know, I can see somebody relating to that in a sense. I gave this song an 8. And it's like it says, grief and armor that come or that comes when love is lost or replaced by a destructive mindset. And it's kind of just more of like it's kind of like more like ammunition. Like if some people can be like, well, like I don't need to have anybody in my life. Like I don't want to have to talk to anybody else. But it's like talking to people kind of helps out. You know, like it helps you. Like I said, break those walls down, break those mental walls down. Yeah. Talk to people. You know. I think this is a very good like song to have a good message behind it. Yeah. So going on to song number 9 called Outlaw. I think from what I saw on Wiki here, this was one of the promotional songs on this. So like okay, you know, like I'm not gonna say no to that. So Outlaw explores the internal struggle to embrace authenticity and confront fear, challenging listeners to awaken the outlaw within themselves. So what's kind of like saying here, it says, you know, uses the central metaphor of the outlaw in you to depict a internal identity crisis, where the listener is confronted with the choice between comfort and dangerous authenticity. The lyrics combine vivid imagery of war, blood, and looming threats to create a psychologically challenged or charged narrative that feels cinematic and intense, reflecting a modern noir western vibe reminiscent of No Country for Old Men. That's a good movie. The song's confrontational tone is sharpened by rhyme patterns and sound devices, making the chorus both memorable and impactful. Hmm. I I kind of agree with that. I mean, I think it's kind of cool that they had said reflecting a noir western vibe. I think I said theme, but it's vibe, reminiscent of No Country for Old Men. Um, I give this an 8.5 out of 10. Excuse me, 8.5 out of 10. Just because of the because like it says, authenticity, to confront fear and embrace it and all that stuff. And also the lyrics is also like kind of hits you in some aspects. Um, but yeah, I gave it 8.5 out of 10. On to song number 10 is called Safe and Sound. I've been hearing this song a little bit more a lot lately on the radio, which is, I think it's good. That's a good sign. So, it says, in Shinedown Safe and Sound, the phrase conveys a defiant confrontational energy, emphasizing resilience and asserting dominance over challenges or competition. And it says that the describe the track, or well, Brent described the track as reminding the competition what they are dealing with one by one. The song embodies a battle-ready, assertive stance, portraying the band as masters of their craft and unyielding in the face of opposition. The lines like, "I'm a maker of movement, I'm a master of design. I created the illusion. What's yours is now mine," reinforce this theme of control, power, and strategic dominance. I mean, truth be told, yeah, that's one way to look at it. Um, I give this song a 10, obviously. Oh man. Um, It even says, it says typically invokes comfort. In this song, it is used ironically to highlight the absence of safety in a competitive or chaotic environment. That's kind of funny. But yeah, like I said, safe and sound 10 out of 10. And now we go on to song number 11. It is called Searchlight. Um, this one is actually a good song that kind of hits home for probably some people. Um, so it says explores the themes of self-discovery and authenticity. It is about owning your true feelings and represents a common age story that celebrates finding one's purpose in life. Lyrics serve as a reminder to ask others to stop trying to save you, emphasizing personal liberation. And then it says, additionally, the song reflects the journey of outgrowing life that others have planned for you and choosing a path that feels genuinely yours. I agree with that too. Um, I give this song another new 10 out of 10. Um, I think that's kind of cool. It says the lyrics serve as a reminder to ask others to stop trying to save you. Kind of like, you know, you can save yourself. If you can save yourself, you're good. You're trying to find your own purpose in life. It's like not everybody's going to find that, but if you have those people that are behind you, cheering you on, being like, hey, like find your own purpose, find your own meaning in life, then you're all good. Yeah, I give this a 10 out of 10 as well. So on to song number 12. It is called "Bear with Me." Um, it says this is a coming of age anthem that blends personal vulnerability with a broader generational message. It uses a three-act structure to trace the journey from youthful insecurity to adult responsibility. I'm not going to go too deep into the weeds with this here, but I do agree with the message and all that stuff. But I think for me, I don't know about y'all, but I think like the first half of this album feels more. I don't want to put this like in a bad way, but I feel like the first half of the album after Search, like when Searchlight hits, I feel like it's more, um, like I said, like I don't want to put that as slight, but I think after Searchlight it starts to kind of go downhill a little bit. For me personally, I know that there was a review that had a something to say like the lows weren't low, the highs weren't high, as it was kind of like just a little bit all over the place or something. But I think like after Safe and Sound kind of ended, and then Searchlight began, it's like I feel like after Searchlight, it just kind of starts becoming a more of a ballad sort of back end to this. Um, I don't know about y'all, but that was just my personal opinion on this. I mean, I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for that, but hey, like it's my own personal opinion. Deal with it. Um, but this song, I feel like it was more just talking to people and not like having more of a voice to be heard, I guess. I mean, you could also, like I said, like you could put yourself in that song, but it's like not a lot of people really want to talk about their youth anymore. Not a lot of people want to talk about their younger years because sometimes some of those people have very bad childhoods and they don't really want to, reflect on that. So I gave this on a 7. I try to not be super mean about it, but kind of just give it a chance to just come out and say it. Um, I would say the exact same thing with the song number 13 called Deep End. Um, and it's like, it pains me to say that too, because it's like, I love Shinedown. I love them to the pieces too, but it's just more, I don't know, it just didn't feel, punchy. Um, I would say maybe Deep End was just like a little bit better, than Bear With Me. But not by much. Um, It says it's a hard rock anthem that uses a tight metaphor and vivid imagery to explore the psychological plunge into danger, self-destruction, and reinvention. Reinvention. Sorry. It says the song's core is the deep end. It says a place of extreme risk where the thrill of transgression meets the awareness of its cost. It says structured in three acts. um, I mean, I gave this song an 8.5. I mean, it was like a little bit better than than Bear With Me. But the next song though, Killing Fields, man, like I gave that song a 10 out of 10 automatically because okay, this is just me, but I think if you had put Killing Fields first and then maybe end with like maybe Dance Kid Dance would have been better, I think, for me. Um, so this song explores the mental or emotional struggles of modern life, touching on themes of addiction, self-destruction, and the psychological toll of living in a chaotic world. Welcome to America. Um, like I said, I mean, I give this a 10 out of 10 automatically. Um, I will say that I've had like some, not some troubles, but I've had some like misheard lyrics before in my day-to-day life. And it's just I think it's more funny that way. But like I said, 10 out of 10 would recommend. Excuse me, golly. So we have four songs left. Let's go. So we are on to song 15 called Back to the Living. Now, I am probably having a feeling that this is probably going to be talking about, love and loss and all that stuff. Um, so yes, Back to the Living is a raw three-act song about surviving an emotional and psychological crisis or crises, confronting grief and choosing to re-engage with life despite the pain. So talking about loved ones and and friends and family and all stuff that have passed away. I mean, if this song is a testament to anything, um, I was just telling one of my coworkers today, like my grandpa, may he rest in peace. When my grandpa, um, he had lived to be over 100, and not many people could say that they lived over 100. Um, and I wish he was still here with us. I mean, he would have been. Oh gosh, he would have been almost to 110, I believe. I can't remember. I can't really remember. But yeah, I miss your grandpa. Um, but this song, I gave this song a 7.5, and I think from that song down, it starts to kind of be more slow songs for me. And it's like I said, I hate to be like that, but it's just like that's how I felt about the back end of this. Because after Killing Fields, it just kind of goes downhill for me. Um, so we're on to song 16 now, called Wide Open. Um, and again, like this is more about like liberation, kind of like being true to yourself, facing your fears, stepping out into the unknown, and all stuff. Um, I mean, I personally, I think if it just ended at Killing Fields, I think it would have been a completely different album for me because it ends on a high note. Um, but it's like, we have four more songs left to go. Um, I give this song a 7. Um, like I said, it's starting to kind of like be a downward spiral of a roller coaster, kind of like coming off of that high and it just goes downhill ever since. Um, so now we're going on to song 17 is called So Glad That You Asked. Man, that's a well, I wouldn't say that's the longest song title name I've ever seen. That goes out to Fall Out Boy. That goes to Fall Out Boy. So this one is capturing the quiet exhaustion of pretending to be fine while struggling with anxiety, past pain, and pressures of modern life. It's not a full breakdown, it's the moment before the breakdown, where you're still showing up, still trying to do your best, but running on fumes. So you can call back to any of the other songs that were before Killing Fields to go back to that. Okay, I don't know if it's just me, but some of these songs are starting to become like a repeat of themselves. Because like when you go back to the song Imposter, it's dealing with anxiety, past pain, and pressures of modern life, but you're running on fumes. It's the exact same thing as this song. So glad that you asked. I I don't know if I really want to be like that, but it's just like it feels like to me some of the core themes of some of these songs are dealing with, like imposter syndrome, anxiety, like pressures of modern life, and then like going back to like, a lot can happen in a year, being young again and dealing with like, being dizzy and all that stuff. It's just like, I feel like to me as a hardcore music person, some of these core themes in songs, and it's like in the lyrics and all stuff, it just feels like repetitive. Um, which I'm fine with, but it's just kind of maybe not keep going back to the anxiety norm and depression and social norm and all that stuff. Because, like, if you have like three or four songs of the exact same damn thing, then it's kind of like, okay, well, we just heard that three or four songs ago, and kind of just be like, okay, well, all right, well, that's kind of crazy. Um, I give this song a 7, which is like not saying much. Okay, so we're finally on to the last song called "The Pilot." Um, and when I had heard this song title, I was like, okay, "The Pilot." I was like, okay, like, like flying out of things or like flying into stuff, like whatever. But like when I had heard the pilot, it just reminded me of Dave Grohl in Learn to Fly. I mean, the flight attendant, the pilot, and then just like being himself in the chair and all that stuff. Like I think that's why it just keeps going back to me. Excuse me. So, so the song "The Pilot" is a raw, introspective song that uses extended metaphors, prisons, tides, war, and flight to trace an internal journey from self-isolation to reclaiming agency. It's not a straightforward, sad ballad. Instead, it conveys the quiet, defiant survival of someone who has been holding themselves together for a long time. Okay, so you can say that about any of these songs on there too. Like I said, it's kind of like I had said in the previous song. It feels like they're just copying homework that they've already done and kind of just have to like rephrase it. But I mean that sucks. That I and being like that, like I said, because it's just like I've said many times before, at verbatim. I love Shinedown. I love what they do. It's just it just sucks that it's rehashing the exact same thing, but just different words. Um, I give this song a 7.5. Because it feels like to me that the album ends at Killing Fields, and these last four were just like add-ons. It felt like to me because I feel like maybe Brent would. I mean, I don't know how that would have worked, but I feel like maybe Brent was just like, hey, like maybe we should just end at Killing Fields, and then maybe they were like, oh, well, maybe we should put more songs on the album because maybe they could just get it more, I guess, airtime or something. But like I had said at the beginning of the episode, if they had just taken the 5 or 6 singles that were our singles and just made an EP out of it, I don't think anybody would have batted an eye because people would eat it up and people would be like, oh shit, like, no, hey, cool, we have new Shinedown coming out. And then it kind of gets them more interested. Um, but I think, like I said, if it ended at Killing Fields, I think it would have been a way better outro for the album. But I think the last four songs just kind of brought it down for me, which is still sad. Okay, so I'm going to give y'all the final score. Right, so the score that I have done and come up with for this album is a 85. Um, I think if some of the songs weren't more, I guess if some of the songs were more, I guess I guess if you want to put a comparison to it, I feel like if it wasn't more ballady, some of these songs and all stuff, like if they didn't feel like some slow songs, I think I would have had a more enjoyable time with it. Um, but some of the songs that we did get, I mean, like Killing Field, Searchlight, Safe and Sound, 365, Dance Get Dance, and all stuff, like those were all good and fine. Um, but again, some of the songs, like I had mentioned before, some of them just kind of slow and just methodical and just kind of just there. It feels like to me it was just a filler album just to have filler songs on it that they just didn't use or just had wanted to put on the album or something. I mean, that sounds like a harsh criticism, but you gotta have that criticism for them to be like, okay, well, we'll do better next time. But I give it an 85. And yeah, I mean, it's a score that it's not bad. It's like a B. It's a B grade. Um, so that is the end of tonight's episode. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed hearing me ramble on this episode. And let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Was I too harsh? Was I right on the money? Was I kind of overhyping it a little bit? Let me know in the comments below. So if you like what we do, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's always free, and you can, you know, uh, and you can follow us on all social media. Go to you can follow us on all social media in the link tree in the description below, which will take you to our link tree page, which will take you to our Instagram pages, Twitter pages, podcast Reddit pages on there, the gaming YouTube channels on there. And tonight's song of the night, I think this is going to be appropriate to have a Shinedown song on the channel. I mean, why not? Um, and I think I should do Sound of Madness. as the song of the night tonight. Um, so yeah, that is the end of this episode, and I will see you guys next Thursday. At the end of the month, yes, we are at the end of June, going into July. It's not too far away, you know. But yeah, Shinedown, Sack Madness is the song of the night, and I will see you guys next Thursday. Peace.